Hey there, it's Leah. I was having a conversation with a client last week, and they were talking about some challenges they were having at work. And what was going on is the dynamics at work are very focused on individual contributions. They are supposed to be working as a team, and everybody sort of on paper says they're working as a team, but they're really all focused on their own personal growth, development, ambition moving forward. And what was happening is this person has a lot of experience and knows that while in the short term, working as an individual, um, you may feel like you get ahead. Overall, it doesn't grow the practice, doesn't grow the business, doesn't develop. Um, it's like having an orchestra where it's great if you have a soloist, but the soloist can't compensate for the whole orchestra. So we were talking about specific challenges, why some people don't believe that the team approach can be helpful for their own career, and they're so focused on just building for themselves. It got me thinking about the nervous system, because I think we have thought for the longest time that the brain is the boss. And we refer to the brain as a boss. And I think we refer to the brain as a boss. I do too, in the sense that the brain is your CEO. Your brain, that frontal part of your brain, your CEO, the rational decision maker, where, it is about vision and guidance and moving forward. But it is connected to the body. And I think we have sort of given it this hierarchical, there's the brain and then there's the body. And when we do that, what happens is we end up being individual contributors, because it is a team approach. If you are just letting your body be the boss, and if you're just letting your brain be the boss, if you're just focusing on your brain, focusing on your thoughts, focusing on your mindset, focusing on cognitive shifts, what can happen is, for the short term, sometimes you'll make a shift, you'll have a breakthrough cognitively, you'll have a certain thought that has an aha moment, but it's not going to stick. Why? Because the body has just as much a role. It's equal partners. And what can happen is we ignore the body. Like, we don't even know what to look for the body. This is something that I'm personally really, really working on. I'm personally really working on my sensations, my emotions, and my thoughts, my cognition. I've always been very, very cognitively driven, just by nature of who I am, my own nervous system, the work that I've done in the area of cognitive communication for over 25 years. Obviously, I'm very biased towards language and cognition, and I love it, and it's important. So I'm having to learn a lot more, and that has been my goal the past, I don't know how many years. And I was thinking too that we're getting better maybe at starting to talk about emotions, but emotions and sensations aren't the same thing. And I like to think of sensations are kind of like the raw data that your body gives. So tension, heat, movement, pain, any kind of fluttering. These are all things, they're sensations. So your body is just feeling them. Emotions are the interpretation of those sensations. So if I have heat, if I have swirling, if I have movement, if I have buzzing, if I have numbing, my emotion is the interpretation. Oh, that's what anger feels like. That's what happiness feels like. That's what sadness, compassion. So the emotion is this label. But we need to be labeling something. We need to be in tune to those sensations. As what can happen is, if we just start just throwing out labels, I feel happy or sad or angry, it ends up being we're thinking about our feelings. So then we're telling the cognitive story again, and we can get stuck in our cognitive stories. And we really have to be working on our cognitive stories in conjunction with what's going on in our body. So this idea that understanding your sensations, really getting in tune with them, then naming the emotion, and then knowing that that emotion impacts back and forth. There's a story, because our brain likes giving a story to support the emotion. So it ends up being a lot more of a wholesome system. We work together. So instead of just having like the star player of the brain, we are functioning as an entire team. And that's where you get to see a lot of movement, a lot of growth when you're functioning as an entire team. So I know for me, one of the goals, I will accept that the entryway for me is usually cognitively. And so I will be drawn to my thoughts. I often map things out on paper. I write things down. I come up with plans. I problem solve. I'll talk about ideas with people. And then I pause. And I pause to regulate my nervous system. I pause to allow my system to decompress. And then I listen to what my body is telling me. Because sometimes my body is communicating to me, but my thoughts are like, no, 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 who cares? This is right. This is dominant. But my body may be speaking to me, and I need to stop and listen. And that is getting into my body, noticing what's going on in my body, relaxing my body. Sound familiar? It's kind of like the safety sequence, right? We got the cognitive, am I safe? Looking around, what's going on? I have all these thoughts. These are the facts. Separating out facts and stories. We're not going to get into that now, but that's a part of cognition, being able to separate out the facts from the stories. But the safety sequence really is, am I safe? And then, do I feel safe? That's where we're getting into our body. That was always the missing piece for me, and it still is the most challenging piece. So getting into my body, what are the sensations? And then relaxing my body, acutely relaxing, using physiological sigh, panoramic vision, just ragdoll, because that allows me to start hearing what's going on in my body, because I'm calming my nervous system down. So those are some thoughts. If you find yourself being very driven by your mind, or if you find yourself in situations where you are noticing things aren't changing, it may be because you're not involving your body enough. Because most of us can white knuckle our way through changing a thought or a mindset. But what happens is we just revert back to our old, limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts when we're under stress, because those are the pathways, because we haven't internalized a change. So challenge, if you want to do this along with me, is right away start paying attention to what's going on in your body throughout the day. Just check in, just every once in a while. Not when something's going wrong, or you can do it when something's going wrong, but do it just like as I'm sitting here recording this video. What's going on in my body as you're watching this video? What's going on in your body as you're making dinner, as you're going for your walk? Starting to send the message to your body that you're starting to listen to it. And don't be surprised if you fall short and you're like, I actually don't know. I don't know. I've never been in my body. One of the things I like to say to my clients when they're like, I don't even know what it feels like in my body, because sometimes our bodies do check out, dissociated, they're numb, and there's lots of reasons. It's protective. So we don't want to have judgment for it. But I like to say, start by just like pinching yourself just a tiny little bit, and you'll notice there's a sensation to it. And just notice the sensation. Don't at first even try to describe it. Just notice it. And then you may want to introduce some vocabulary to describe what the sensation is. Like, that's sharp, it's tingly, it is very pointy. And then check in. That's usually a way that helps me get to know my sensations. The other way that helps me to get into my body is simply just asking, is it pleasant or not pleasant? Like, is this sensation a good sensation or not a good sensation? So just sort of getting the basics. And then another thing is, does this sensation feel expansive or contracting? Do I want to step up and move forward, or do I want to retract and be invisible? So those are just a couple of ways to start thinking about what's going on in your body, because we want to feel what's going on in our body. We don't just want to think about what our brain is wanting us to think about. The two of them, when they are partners, we also want to partner with the heart, but we'll talk about that another time. But when they are partners, that's when a lot of healing and growth can happen. I hope this is helpful. I'll see you next time.